Before we can start our drawing, we need to get our reference image ready for the drawing process. So let's head on to the computer and I'll walk you through the steps. The software we're going to use to create our grids is PixelMator Pro. Once you click on the software, you're going to say create new document. And this is going to give you a page where you can select custom sizes. And what you want to do here is you want to type in this exact same dimensions than your physical paper. We're going to work on an A3 paper, so we can click on the drop-down menu, choose international paper, and just pick an A3 size. I'm just going to put in a higher resolution and say create. Now our physical paper on screen is the exact same dimensions as our physical paper that we're going to draw on. The next step is to import our image. We are going to shape and resize it according to our specific needs. You can play around here with colors, with your tonal values. Mine is pretty much where I want it to be. I'm just going to resize it a little bit more and make sure my composition is perfect. That looks good. And now we're going to add a grid onto our reference image. We're going to say View, Layers, and then type on Grid. This is going to overlay a grid across our entire reference image. We want to make sure our grid dimensions is fine. We're going to work with a 2 by 2 centimeter grid. So you're going to make sure that in settings, over there by ruler, you're going to say grid line at every 2 centimeters. Mine is already set at 2, so this should be fine. Each grid line now is at exactly 2 centimeters, vertically and horizontally. Okay, those are our guidelines for the grid. Now we're going to take our line tool and we're going to create our grid. You can obviously customize your grid lines according to how thick you want them to be. I prefer mine quite thin. And then you're going to move these grid lines around to match exactly the grid overlay that you added. Once the line is in position, you're going to copy and paste. And you're going to put these lines on every single grid line. Next up is to add our horizontal grid lines. We're going to use the exact same process. Once our grid lines have been positioned, we can now say View and deselect the grid that we've overlaid. And then voila, you have a reference image with a 2 by 2 centimeter grid. We're quickly going to number them. I'm just going to choose a text box, place it in the first block, and we're going to name that A1. All my horizontal blocks I'm going to number with the alphabet, A, B, C, D. All my vertical blocks I'm going to number with numbers. Block A1, block 2, block 3, and so forth. Next up, you're going to export your image and save it somewhere on the computer. I'm going to save it as a high-res JPEG file. Save it on my desktop. And there we go. Now we've got an image overlaid with a 2 by 2 centimeter grid. Once my reference image is completed with its grid, I'm going to quickly pop it onto my iPad because I prefer drawing from a digital screen. That gives me some flexibility to zoom in and out while I'm drawing. Just going to ensure that I don't miss any details. Right, now that my reference image with my grid is on my iPad, we are now ready to draw. Let's move to my paper and transfer the grid onto the paper. Okay, our reference is ready with our grid. The next step is to put the grid on our physical paper. So when you start measuring your 2 centimeter blocks, always start measuring from the left-hand side corner. I'm going to make a mark at every 2 centimeters. All right, now that our marks have been made, we can now connect the lines. You're going to align your ruler with the spot you made, and then you're going to carefully pull your lines through. I think while I'm doing this, it is a great idea to just explain to you what pencil you'd want to use for your grid lines. Most people think that it's okay to use an H pencil for this because an H pencil is obviously very light. However, it's better to use a B pencil, something like a 2B, for example, because a 2B pencil is softer. So that means it's easier to erase. While you're doing your drawing, it's easier to work those grid lines into your drawing, where an H pencil is much harder to manipulate and to remove. So do your grid lines and the outlines of your drawings with a B or a 2B. And you want to make sure that you use very little pressure when pulling these lines. They must be barely visible, just enough for you to follow. When I pull my lines, I love using my 0.35mm mechanical pencil with a 2B lead. That just ensures that my line width is extremely thin and very light. Okay, now let's pull our vertical lines. This is not the funnest part of drawing, but it is very important because it's going to help you a lot with the accuracy of your work. Okay, there we go. We have a grid on our paper. Now it's time to number this grid in exactly the same way we numbered it on the digital version. Alphabet on the horizontal blocks and numbers on the vertical blocks. Now our grid is finished, and our physical paper and our digital reference should be identical in regards to the composition of the grid and in sizing. Right now, the next step will be to transfer our image from our reference onto our paper using our grid. So let the drawing begin.